the future for my children and my 12 grandchildren. I am in. I'm committed. I'm in. Before we even started having children, you know, that was one of the selections in a spouse. It has to be a good mom, and you know, good wife would be good, but I was really hunting for a mom, and she has been awesome and supports all this. I cannot, in my soul, leave this fight to my grandkids to fight. I have to do what I can now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, you'll own nothing and be happy. Let me tell you what that means.
Yeah.
Land. You're not going to be able. Where are you going to homeschool? Where are you going to grow your own food? Where are you going to get your fresh water? Where are you going to be not too hot, not too cold, not too wet, not too hungry, not too thirsty? Where? Where? It's going to be land. That's what they're coming after. And that's the George Carlin thing. They own all the good land. There's a club and you ain't in it. So we got to create our own club. Where? You know, Vít is going to tell you about Liberland. It was a spit of land that was like, yeah, this country, I don't want it. Well, I don't want it. He goes, I want it. I'll take it. It's mine now. And we just come here and say, it's ours. And they go, damn, it was like people going there and stuff and doing stuff and claiming and doing. You know, possession is like, I don't know, 9.67 tenths of kiss my butt. All right? So then you saw the, years ago in Anarchapulco, God, one of the first, second one, Vít comes in, we're all like, woo, we're all in. So what's my first question? Where do you land the precarious pirate ship for supplies? I go, I go, what's your protocol? He goes, write them. Okay, you go to the letters of Captain Mark and Reprisal on Pirates Without Borders, and you'll see about immigration and escape velocity and all that. That's all for him. We're coming. Where do I land? Where do I dock? Well, they actually did it. They would have ships go up the river and kind of, you know, hey, we just park over here, land. This is a fabulous story that comes from just the mind of someone like Vít. Is going to tell you this story. It rocks. Vít.
How are you, everybody? So great to be here, and I almost didn't make it this time, but against all the odds, I decided I have to be here with you. It's one of the greatest gatherings, the only one of its kind, actually. We are trying to build up similar meeting in Europe in the summer, and I will tell you more about it. It's called the Floating Man, but this is really amazing meeting of amazing people that are serious about liberty and they're doing something about it. So give yourself, one more kudos, because this is really the place to be. Woo. Anyway, behind me, you're one of the first people to see it. We've got an amazing design for 1/5 of whole Liberland by Zaha Hadid Architects. It's the result of 2 rounds of architectural competition with more than 100 architectural studios taking part in those contests. And then it was the whole, all these results were taken and some good ideas were integrated from the winners from previous rounds, and then the very famous Zaha Hadid Architects, which for example designed Beijing Airport, took it and they worked on it for half year, and they gave us a very nice initial urban plan. And they're not just that, but we also have Patrick Schumacher, the CEO of Zaha Hadid, who is a free market urban planner. It's kind of oxymoron in a way, but I think it's the best type of approach we can get in terms of planning. Of course, you need to have a little bit of planning when you have a land, when it's private, but we want to have as much freedom as possible while we are doing it. So anyway, for those of you that don't know what Liberland is, it is a startup country in Balkans. It was started on 13th of April 2015. It was the birthday of Thomas Jefferson. We really wanted to invoke the spirit of American Revolution. We wanted to make sure that there is a place for liberty-oriented people to go to and join forces to really build something new instead of fighting the old system. And I think that's very important with Liberland. I've been trying for maybe 10 years to change something in Europe in the political systems. I've been fighting quite hard. You know, our YouTube video channel has 25 million views now. It is great educational place for many people, but it really didn't bring much results. And at some point I realized it's much easier really to, rather than trying to elect the right politicians or kind of get elected, is to basically choose the voters and build a new country with them, which is probably the right kind of approach. So that's what we're doing. By the way, Peter, one of the greatest hands in building Liberland, is here with me. He's taking care of the citizenship program, and he's usually in the office. I managed to get him out of office. He's a super hard worker. So, you know, so we're trying hard to build up a very strong nation with all of its elements, and we're doing it from kind of bottom up. So it is a multi-year challenge. It's not like you can start a country over the summer holiday from scratch, which, you know, many people kind of got disappointed that, you know, we don't have a country over the first summer holiday. But we are working hard on it. We're making step by step the necessary things to make it a regular country, and we've got so many cool things. Outside of the cool people, we've got so many cool things. Of course, number one is Bitcoin, which we have adopted 6 years before El Salvador, and I think that was the right type of decision. And we've got the decentralization. Now we've got the technology, the blockchain technology that we want to implement for the governance of Liberland itself, and we're quite far. I think we're 80-90% through with some very good programmers now on board. Some of them actually even from this event, so that's kind of cool. So this is Liberland behind me. It's 7 square kilometers. It was given up by Serbia and never accepted by Croatia. And that was the special situation which doesn't happen too often, where two countries basically don't claim a territory between them. And the situation is that if ever Croatia claimed this piece of land, they would basically lose the border dispute with Serbia. So it is kind of a nice stalemate where Liberland came in. We came in and we stick the flag like this in Liberland and said, now this is actually a free state of Liberland, and we received enormous support. And we were expecting that maybe 20,000 people will apply by the end of the year, and we received them probably in first couple of hours. And then, you know, next day it was 80,000, next day it was 70,000 people, and by the end of the week we had like 250,000 people that applied for citizenship, which was pretty huge. And right now we've got almost 800,000 people with us. So we're a big nation. We're a little bit bigger than Malta or Iceland by now. And it's a big challenge, of course, to utilize all that energy and all these great people that are coming to join us. So, you know, we really are trying to combine the best elements of the existing constitution, you know, existing world with the, and I'm talking about American Constitution, which is a great document, you know, but of course, if you made a couple amendments to it, and if you have a couple politicians that disregard it, then the situation is a bit more different than what the founding fathers of the United States envisioned. So we took a little bit of elements of direct democracy from Switzerland. We took some meritocratic elements, and we are building this governance over this constitution that is being finalized. By the way, right now, if you're joining Liberland, you're not just welcome to read the constitution, you're also welcome to contribute to it. So please, if you decided to somehow become a resident or citizen, just also go ahead and go to the version which you can actually write into, and while you're reading it as a citizen before you join Liberland, make your comments, because all of them are being still considered. We are quite far. I mean, we're 6 years in the development of the constitution. We made some major changes early this year to make it a little bit more, I would say, up to date with the blockchain technology, to be possible to implement most of the parameters of the constitution directly into the blockchain. But we haven't changed the main ideas. That is to maximize the freedom of the individual and minimize the role of the state, which I think has been the key principle behind the successful nation, you know, from the beginning of the existence of the countries. Right now we only have 4 ministers, for example, so I think it's very important to make sure that the state doesn't actually do anything else apart of taking care of security, justice, and diplomatic relations. You know, those are the main elements of the state that should be taken care of. The rest can be easily taken care of by private sector, and we are actually even looking into how to Uberize police, how to decentralize justice system, and it's a little bit more difficult with the diplomacy, how to decentralize it. The country kind of needs to speak one voice, but we're also looking into that. If you have the e-residency up, you can see if you look up our website, you can see all the representatives that we have. Quite happy also that Jeff Berwick is helping us with representation here in Mexico. So that's great to have people like him on board. A little bit about our blockchain, but of course, you know, if you're into blockchain development, you can go directly to GitHub and study all the documentation. There has been already 10,000 lines of code added to the Polkadot's palettes. So we are building up on Polkadot technology, but we have made quite a lot of changes already to fit with what we want to do. We've got validators, those will be citizens basically counting the votes. And we have a traditional Congress, which is basically elected by merit holders, people who pay taxes. So Liberland is kind of a corporate structure in this sense, but the corporation is in check by citizens. So any law or any nomination of somebody into some place can be challenged by veto, public veto, kind of a referendum about getting rid of something. The Senate, which is kind of House of Lords of Liberland, can also get rid of any law that they don't like within some period. And also the justice system, the courts can get rid of the laws, which I think is very important. There is only one institution to install new laws, which is very competitive, and it's kind of, you know, the more votes, the more taxes you pay in Liberland, the bigger is your say in electing who is going to represent you in that place. But that institution has 3 other institutions to keep it back and make sure they don't produce too many laws. So the elections in Liberland are actually every 3 months. That's the cycle, but it doesn't mean that everybody will change. That just means that the most popular congressman will replace the least popular congressman in the Congress itself. But when you become congressman, you can be sure that at least for 3 months you will keep the job. But on the other hand, you can lose your voting power in the Congress anytime. If you lose the support of the people that have merits, even you're actually congressman, the vote in the Congress that you have is going to be lowered. So immediately after your politician done something bad, you can decide to remove his support for him. Which I think is kind of cool, you know, which is something that we need. But on the other hand, he's got another 2 or 3 months to basically defend himself and still stay in the Congress. So if we send a delegation, foreign delegation, I don't know, to El Salvador to meet the parliamentary members in El Salvador, these members of Liberland Congress can be sure they're actually representing Liberland in that period, which I think is also very important. So as I was talking already about public veto, which I think is a great mechanism. We don't let citizens, majority of citizens, to make new laws or to install referendums. I think if you look into Switzerland, it has not been working very well when the people have the right to basically install new laws, but it works really great if they have the right to get rid of the laws. If you look into different proposals, you know, the referendum, for example, one of the last ones was to tax 5% of the richest people, right? But that's not really a reasonable proposal, but you have so many reasonable proposals to get rid of this law, this law, this law. So we were inspired by Switzerland, we implemented that element. So Liberland is a democracy. Majority of citizens can decide about their future, but in a negative way, in a sense they can get rid of the law they don't like. The judiciary system is in development, and it will be developed probably around June and July to the final stage. It has been a subject to the Polkadot grant as well. So cross fingers for us that we get it, and it is a very smart way how we decentralize justice, how we basically make the market of the judges that can compete between one another, and there is a way to execute justice in Liberland, which I think is also important, you know, that Liberland is actually a nation of not just freedom lovers, but also people that stick to their word, and that where you can actually enforce the contracts. So your merits is also your collateral in the system. When you have 5,000 merits as a citizen of Liberland, it is something that you can lose if you don't compensate somebody that you harmed previously. That's something that you can lose in Liberland without basically losing your freedom to move, but you will lose your reputation and your stake inside of Liberland itself, which I think is important. We have taken inspiration from Kleros a little bit in terms of how the system works, which is a kind of famous arbitration system online, but there is still great space to develop these systems, and Liberland really wants to be a jurisdiction for smart contracts, which you can integrate in your smart contract, and if there needs to be a decision by somebody physical, you can actually integrate our justice system into the smart contract. Okay, so what we're doing to get Liberland recognized. One of the strongest activity that is pushing us forward is humanitarian aid. And we are quite happy that many of the Liberlanders, instead of, for example, donating to their local charities, have decided to change their pathways for donations to Liberland Aid Foundation, because it is helping us to achieve two goals. It's helping people around the world. For example, like the El Salvadorian Kids Hospital, where we recently donated 1 Bitcoin to the development of the hospital. Or I don't know, we're helping, for example, schools in Serbia or institutions in Croatia. But it also is a diplomatic tool, right? It's a very good ticket to get invited by the government of that country if we are doing good job in that regard, and we are actually doing that. We have donated a whole container of food, for example, in Haiti, and we're doing it now every couple of months, and it's a very good way to keep the dialogue with the government and get recognized by the government of Haiti. So in all of these countries we are actually quite active. We have cut the deal with Somaliland, we have signed collaboration treaty with Haiti, basically on the level between the governments, not as a humanitarian activity, but more of a diplomatic thing. So that's something where you can also get engaged. And we're working hard to get recognized or to build support in institutions such as European Parliament, where we had a very nice event 2 years ago, or we are working with the local congressmen and senators in the United States to open up the dialogue and open up the discussion about recognition of Liberland by each US state. And that's a good way to prepare ourselves to get recognized by United States of America. We have made a very strong and very, I would say, important trip to El Salvador a couple months ago, 3 months ago. We visited as a whole delegation. We met almost all important people in the country, and this is the meeting with the Ministry of Economy. I think El Salvador, of course, is quite ahead. We came there to talk to them about starting some sort of free economic zones, like we're helping to build in Serbia, for example, but they announced the Bitcoin city on that same day. So, of course, I felt like I'm bringing a wood to the forest at the time when they did it. So, really, these guys, they deserve support. They're doing something which I think is like 2 or 3 years ahead of what I was expecting the traditional nation states would be like. And it's a good competition for Liberland, and I'm happy that when Mr. President, Mr. Bukele gave us some credit for the donation to the Children's Hospital, he also mentions he's planning to build 20 Alexandrias around the world, where I thought that he's a little bit referring to us, and I feel it will be a topic of discussion and way of them to support us also sometime in the future. Right now, I think they're also in the position that they need the support. They're under huge stress by IMF, by United States, right, to get rid of Bitcoin, to try to make El Salvador socialist again. So that was very important trip. And I already spoke a little bit about urban design. Well, what we're doing right now is we have chosen also very strong partners in the metaverse world. Since we have the whole thing in 3D already, I think it would be a shame not to turn it into huge virtual reality for Liberlanders to interact. I think it's a bit of a buzzword, metaverse, these days, but we came up with that idea long before it was a buzzword. For us, it is really an urban planning tool, a way for people to integrate. I can show you on my computer later on if you want. We can walk around in Liberland, or world.liberland.org is a place where you can schedule your meeting in Liberland. And in April, we are planning to actually have our anniversary partially hosted in our metaverse as well. which I think, again, it's a great tool for us to see what we're planning to build in that place and have a little bit of discussion. Do we really need that building? Can we make that parliament a little bit smaller? Should we have that bureaucrat sitting over there, or should we get rid of him? So that's the thing. And we have some cool partners, TD5, Metapurs, important partners for the development of this aspect of Liberland. But we are also physically present, and that's something when you're coming to Serbia, you should never forget about visiting our village next to Liberland that is in development. This is the plan. Right now we are just actually having this restaurant there, but there is a plan for a hotel, and the cottages are for rental already, but we are planning to turn it into a very nice village for Liberlanders for around 200 people. So we do have a physical settlement right across the Liberland on the Serbian side, where we actually are receiving quite a lot of support. And there is another important thing, the launch of economic hub with the free trade zone of Apatin. It's a great opportunity, a place where there is no VAT tax, no value-added tax, and there are no customs. It's right next to Liberland, it's under the Serbian jurisdiction, but we are actually developing all these businesses and helping Liberland registered businesses to make business without customs and without VAT, which, I think it's a great opportunity for us. And then there is Bitcoin Freedom, a project where we have Jonathan here, one of the owners of the cabin, which we want to finalize this April and launch it for the summer season. And it is a nice boat that we are planning to park right next to Liberland. Also, we're planning to have like 6-7 houseboats, smaller houseboats that you can rent for your business or for vacation. So we are planning to build a village on the water next to Liberland, because it's helping us to sort out two problems. We actually, there is an issue with flooding sometimes in Liberland, so for now it's actually good to be on a floating platform, and then there is issue with Croatians that I kind of welcome right now, because it's helping us to protect the country. But so far, it's difficult for us to build in Liberland. They have always been quite hostile to whatever physical activity we have made in Liberland. But I'm taking it from the positive side of things. They're actually actively defending Liberland against Croatians and against anybody who comes down there. And it's buying us the time to really finalize our constitution and our plan, what we want to build there, and also help us to get a little bit more stronger economically, to be able to be a good partner for Croatia, because that's what we want to do, right? We are not there to make any troubles to Croatia. We are actually going to utilize a piece of swamp that is 10,000 times smaller than Croatia itself, and that could be a huge economic boost to them in the future. It's a place where 500,000 people, the region, 500,000 people left to Germany and other places to find job, and we have brought them back. Even though we are unable to start building in Liberland yet, we have brought them back, at least through online forums, but they're back in the region in a couple of years. And then there is very important event which you should mark in your calendar, the 13th of August, which is a Floating Man Festival. It's, I would say, a gathering this time. Last year, even though we had some COVID restrictions, we still had over 1,000 people joining us, which was quite great. I'm planning to have 3,000 people. I think it would be also reasonable people to settle Liberland with. But it's going to be nice music festival with lots of great lectures, with the best minds from the region and globally that are going to lecture you on different aspects of Liberland and liberty itself. So, definitely mark in your calendar 13th of August if you're around in Europe. And that was from one of the first events that we organized. That was the Floating Man number 1. You can see we've got beautiful sandy beaches, and also we've got some security by Croatian police at the same time, which I was also quite happy about. So, you're asking how to maybe join Liberland. It's quite easy. It really takes a couple of minutes. You can become a resident in the first round. You actually get a photo ID this time. This is an older version, but right now you also get a regular ID, which looks quite nice. I think it's even looking better than my Czech ID, which I'm also holding. And later on, you can, with this e-residence, you can start your Liberland business. You can register your ship, and we have a flag for Jeff Berwick and for his ship that was registered recently in Liberland. So I hope he's gonna take us for a ride later on in the week. And you can basically start doing business. And with this free trade zone, there will be different possibilities how to do stuff. Right now, you as a e-resident can sell stuff on Liberland Market, anything for crypto. It's like an eBay, crypto eBay, where you can register your business and basically already start operating under our jurisdiction. It's a similar photo. Okay, that was the video. I'm not sure if we can play it. Very nice. You can just Google it or YouTube it on the metaverse, Liberland metaverse. It's a very nice video which will fly you through Liberland. And I think I'm a little bit out of time, but I just want to mention one last thing. Okay, maybe we can do some questions. I just want to mention one last thing in my speech is that we are organizing a cruise. It will be a cruise on a big cruiser, a river cruiser, so it's not like a big cruiser, but it's a big cruise ship, which you can join on between 25th and 28th of March. And it will be kind of an event before our anniversary, which will be mostly virtual, but we are choosing basically 100 people to go with us from Budapest, and it's like a one-day trip from Budapest to Liberland, stay overnight in Liberland on the ship, and then go all the way to Belgrade. So you will see Liberland and two big cities in Europe. If you haven't really visited Budapest, it's a really nice city, Belgrade as well. So it's a great opportunity for a cruise. And I think it's also a great price. We got a really good supportive price from one of the agencies that organizes this. So it's anniversary.ll.land is the website, which should be running later on, or Peter can help you to sign up for that event. And then 13th of April, 14 days later, we are going to announce all these things running, like the blockchain, like the metaverse. And it will be a big online event, 5-6 hours, which you're also very welcome to join us for. So that's it from me, and I'm open for questions.
Okay, we got a question over here.
Hi, thank you so much for being here, first of all, and for your vision of what you're doing. I was just really wanting to ask, and you may have gone over this, so please forgive me, but maybe there's some other people who might need it repeated. Could you just talk about citizenship a little bit? And the process, is there a specific website that you go to? How much is citizenship? And do you have to physically go to be there to apply for citizenship, or can you do it remotely?
Of course, you can do it remotely. Everything in Liberland you can do remotely. We're not going to bother you with any excessive bureaucracy in Liberland, or at least I'm trying to fight it. Of course, there are states, so it's starting to be a little bit of an issue, but I'm doing my best that you can actually do it online, and probably you can do it under 5 minutes. And but it does have a two-tier. You first become a resident, and after that, we basically check who you are. We want to make sure that you are not a search criminal for some, things which would be problematic also in Liberland, and we want to make sure that you're a nice person. So you first become a resident, and in the second step, when you basically gather 5,000 merits, which very soon, and we want to launch it later on in April, will be on markets as well. So they will be completely decentralized. When you gather 5,000 merits and you stake them, you become citizen as well, and you can get a Liberland passport, etc. So it does have a two tiers, but with e-residency you don't have any political power. You can just watch what the state is doing, but with citizenship you're already part of Liberland. You will be able to vote in all the vetoes. You will be able to actively vote your congressman. You become part of the political life of Liberland itself. Well, e-residency is $150 right now, and usually you receive it with UPS now in a week or two, maybe 3 sometimes. Peter is looking at me, so it depends on how, which part of the week you're gonna apply for it. And the citizenship is $5,000, but as I said, it's actually 5,000 merits, and merit will be floating currency. And I actually don't think it's going down after we launch it on the exchanges. I think it might go the other way, but I don't know. We will let the market to decide. We have decided to make only 70 million merits and never more. They represent the country as the whole, including everything that it holds, and you're having 5,000 out of the 70 million. So that means there will be never more than 12,000 citizens. But I don't think it's important to have a lot of citizens. I think it's great to have the whole world as e-residents, and become part of the ecosystem. And we can of course have later on some citizens also without merits if we decide to, but I think to have this kind of nation of 12,000 people, it's a reasonable amount of people for a reasonable little government as well, so everybody kind of knows each other. In Monaco, for example, there is only also a couple 20,000 voters, and it's working quite well. In Liechtenstein, it's a similar situation, so we decided to also keep the number of citizenship low. But right now, they're kind of flat. For $5,000, you get 5,000 merits, which becomes staked in your citizenship. And you can also later on speculate on the rise of that. So I'm really wondering how things will evolve in this regard. I've been working on this quite hard to make it successful launch. For us, it was most important that we get the technology behind merit as good as possible. And it took a while before actually these DAOs and this technology for the governance of the online countries has developed to a stage where I can trust it and where we can actually build on it. And it's this year, 2022.
And Aristotle is going to be auctioning off a citizenship right after we get done with this question, and then we're auctioning. So you guys, you want to be a citizen? Well, just a minute. All right.
Yeah, hi, thanks for the talk. I just wanted clarity over the merit system.
Okay.
Did I hear it right? Is it kind of based on your behavior? It can go up and down?
It's not based on your behavior. It can be. It's your collateral in the system, right? But it is something that you can lose. But the whole thing. Okay, you're referring, of course, to the Chinese system. But every system that you're living is only as good as basically the members of it, right? So if you have a society which is full of communists, and if you have a society full of libertarians building the structure, then I think it's a completely different story. But it will be, of course, subject to debate, But I think it's much better than the system that we are living in today. So if you do something wrong and you decide not to compensate the other part, you go to jail in other countries, right? Like the state throws you in jail. They don't give you a chance to compensate, like reasonably compensate or work actually reasonably in that time. You're just wasting taxpayers' money and you're using the hotel. In Liberland, the first thing that will happen is basically you lose your stake inside of Liberland. And it does happen. People came to Liberland and they said they will buy this ship in Hungary for Liberland, and they ran away with the money. And those were the people that did something for Liberland previously, but then they decided they were in the situation they needed drugs more than being citizen of Liberland. But then we had something that we could immediately take from them in order to compensate for the damage that they have created. And actually the guy came 2 months later back, he returned the money and reclaimed his status inside of Liberland. It has been working quite well. I was surprised how well it works, and actually did implement it while dealing now with my children as well. And it's working so great. I'm not punishing my kids in any way. They're just having a balance with me, like a monetary balance. And it's like, okay, do that math, that's fine. You're just losing some of that thing in the balance that we have. But if you're actually learning good stuff and you're contributing to the family in some way, you're gaining the tokens from me, and then if you're doing something really bad, you're gonna lose them again. But it's your decision. You're free to decide what you're gonna do. And of course, that system will be only as good and only as good as the justice system of Liberland is. But it's in every society. If you have corrupt courts, you're not gonna be able to live in that society anyway. And I hope that the judges of Liberland will make the right decisions at the right time.
Yeah, freedom, justice. There's an app for that, okay? They got this going. I wanted to mention we're going to do 2 more questions here. We got to do the auction, and then lunch will be served when I say, after he gets done, and not before. So stay there. There was a book called The Probability Brooch by L. Neil Smith in the late 70s. Won a bunch of awards, and you guys probably don't know. But in there, when they had Congress, you would have not someone like Ron Paul represents a district of whatever. It would have, they represent how many votes, how much support they had live. They give a speech, the representation would go up. They say something stupid, the representation would go down. The power of this is how blockchain and this stuff happens, is that democracy, whatever you want to call it, representation of your interest is immediate. You can have, there's so many different things that can happen. It's all about intent. What is your intention? We'll make it happen.
Hello, I would like to thank you also very much for being here and talking about Liberland. I missed the first 5 minutes of your speech. I hope you didn't actually already explain what I'm about to ask, which is one, how many countries have recognized Liberland as a sovereign state? And if Liberland issues passports, are those actually useful? Can you cross a border with a Liberland passport?
Well, that's a good question. Of course, it's one of the challenging things when you have a startup country to get the passports recognized for traveling. But I think actually you can, without too much hassle, travel like 1/3 of the world on the passport. But when you are getting that passport, we don't recommend you to do that. We discourage you to do that. We have made a deal with Somaliland 2 years ago. That was a very important recognition trip, and we signed a collaboration treaty over there, which, by the way, you probably don't know what Somaliland is, but it's 10 times safer country. It's free market oriented country in Africa, but nobody recognizes it. It's bigger than United Kingdom. There is 5 million people living there, and they live completely without recognition status from anybody else than Liberland. And it's kind of funny because I was there, and when we signed the treaty, I realized I was the first president ever to visit the country from the foreign countries, not even from the neighboring countries, right? And these guys are living happily. Their companies are doing business all around the world. Nobody recognizes them. So I wanted to help them to improve their status, but at some point I realized they don't even want to get recognized that much because they would lose some subsidies from UN or something. So the situation there is quite interesting, and I wanted to learn firsthand how that works. And then we got the collaboration with Haiti signed earlier last year, and we went to official diplomatic visit to El Salvador in the autumn, and I think we're lined up for every half year now for some bigger diplomatic step.
Answered your question. Great, Vít, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, go ahead and come on.